the Live and Create podcast.
Well, thanks again, man, for coming in. I'm part of the Sync Alliance, and that's where I got familiar with you when you came in for the feedback sessions. You stuck out from a lot of the supervisors just because really your level of candor. And I was pretty new into this world at the time, and you had called me out for releasing only 7 songs and like being in a band for 10 years or something like that. And I was just like, you remember? I was laughing. I was like, oh man, because you really loved the song I pitched. And so I was feeling good. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, how many songs have you put out?
Yeah, we need to rethink what we're focusing on.
Yeah, it was a humbling moment, but definitely getting in the sync world, man, it's definitely opened up my mind to the volume that's capable. But I was hoping to dive into that, just starting with that concept of candor, because you seem to embody it, and it seems to come from a place of love. And I was curious where that developed for you. Did you come out the womb just telling everybody what's up, or did that develop over time for you?
That's just who I am, I think, for better or worse. So sometimes it may bite me in the ass, but I think in general, it all comes from a place of positivity, love, and some sarcasm. So I look back, and as a kid, I think I was always a little sarcastic, or, had some I definitely had some sarcasm. So I think back in high school, and even as like a 8 or 9-year-old, some of the things that would come out of my mouth, like, whoa, that's pretty ill, but that's just who I am. But it's never meant to be, I'm not the jokester. I'm not the one to cut deep on somebody. I'm never trying to belittle anybody. And I'm never trying to belittle somebody. So if it comes across that way, then it's just the way I'm delivering it, or, and it's my candor. But I'm not the dude who's trying to make somebody feel less than. I may crack a joke, but I'm never trying to make someone. It's always like, what's the building block to the next thing?
Right.
Well,
and I feel like it's a refreshing thing. At least my experience there, as an artist, you get so many people who will not tell you the full truth, and I had a mentor who got me into a place of starting to ask, like, can you tell me the last 5%? What's the last 5% you don't want to say to me right now, to try to bring that out of people. So that's why I really appreciate it. You mentioned sometimes it's come back to bite you. Was there ever a time where you're like, that sticks out to you, where you're like, oh man, I went too far on that one?
Yeah, or it's just delivered wrong, or the person wasn't in that mood. It wasn't in that receptive mood of my silliness or my type of humor. Happens with my in-laws sometimes, where I'll say something and they'll look at me strange. I'm like, shit. Yeah, I mean, they're receiving, I'm not delivering it. I don't have a wide enough skill set to deliver it to 8 different audiences in the way that they're going to hear it. I need the 8 audiences to just know, hey, it's me, and this is what's coming out. I think that's my dad. I think my dad was that in a way. Some of the shit that would come out of his mouth, like, holy shit. But if you knew him, you knew it was all love, and it was just, like, play something that's going to make me piss my pants. And some people are, what the fuck is that? And other people like get it and understand what it is.
So it's like, I got you. I got something right here. I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think something I learned is, trying to build a couple of the building blocks and build off of that. So let's focus on the positive. Let's focus on a couple of the cool things that are there, and let's build on that, opposed to focusing on the negative. It's something that I've learned as well as a kid growing up, or seeing that interaction between people. So I think that's something that the candor that comes across when I'm talking to you, and I'm like, hey, I like this song. So that's a pretty cool start. What else you got? Well, I got like 6 things. Well, how long you been playing? Oh, 12 years. I'm like, oh, man, come on, for real? Like, it's like, hey, I've already complimented, we've already kind of built. So I expect to hear more if you're putting out stuff like this. So then my method worked in that it shocked you into like, you know what? I need to be focusing on putting out some more stuff, possibly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was the whole goal at the end of the day.
Well, it was, as you know, like I said, as getting into the sync world and, you know, being around people who are kicking out tracks a day. There's one group now I'm part of where there's some producers, I don't know how they're doing it. They're like overnight, they're like doing a whole album. I'm like, what in the world? But it raises your level. And that's what it did for me. That's why I loved it. It's like, just raise that level of like,
Nice.
okay, it's time to get to work. It's time to really put stuff out. I like that piece too, though, of adding in the skill set. You know, I found with artists, I was working with female singers, and I just got to a point where I was used to just telling people, no, that's not good. Fix that, you know, for almost like expediting a situation in rehearsals. And I had one singer come up to me one time and she's like, have you ever heard of the sandwich technique where you say something nice? And I started laughing. I was like, I could do that. I could build that. It kind of, like you said, bring in that certain skill.
Yeah, totally.
Now, your heart for mentoring, I think, overflows in those sessions that I've seen, and then some of the things you're up to. Again, is that something that was instilled with you, like growing up in your family as with musicians, or is that something that popped up for you, like, oh, I really want to invest in other people?
I think it's something that I wanted and didn't get, or something that I could have used. But then I saw it with other people. I saw other people doing it to other people. I saw, you know, this bass player doing it with this singer, or I saw this coach doing it with this kid, or this mom doing it with, you know, so I saw these examples of it. And I don't know, you know, I had a lot of freedom as a kid, and I had a lot of love and a lot of trust and encouragement, you know, in that sense. But as far as this is how you do it, you know, you do it like this, I was just always kind of left on my own to figure shit out. And then when it came time for me to start wanting to reach out and figure things out, I had to find the people that could do that for me, that could help teach me, or can help give me the nuggets, or they would pop up out of nowhere. I guess that's the guy I'm rolling with for the next couple of years. And that's when I start to learn stuff. So when I started getting bits of that, I see that, hey, it's got to be reciprocal, you know, and I got to figure out how to give this to other people. But, you know, even like DJ Newmark from Jurassic 5, him and I are best friends, and we started out in high school together. And he's always saying, like, you know, I wouldn't have been in this business without you, because you were always encouraging me, or like you were the one to get me out of the bedroom, out from being a bedroom DJ and a bedroom producer. I'm like, come on, man, you shit's dope. Let's go do these parties. Let's do this. So I was always,
you're always getting people to get more music out there. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I was always trying to hustle, and, you know, like there's a bigger thing going on here. So it's part of my nature for sure. Because there's people I know that it's just not in their skill set. It's just not part of their nature. It's not part of something that motivates them, but it's something that motivates me.
Yeah, that's huge too. It's interesting that you talk about like growing up in a very loving, encouraging environment, but not necessarily getting the step-by-step directions. That's compelling to me.
Yeah, I didn't, I'd ask my mom for advice, and she'd say, oh, you'll figure it out, you know? And I'm like, but I'm asking for advice. But, you know, she was right. I figured it out.
Right.
You know, my dad wasn't, you know, he wasn't for a lot of words with me. With other people, you know, he wouldn't shut the fuck up. But with, you know, I just get like a little,
you try to sneak in the room and get a little bit, take a note.
Yeah, I get a little note here and there. And but I got good at breaking down just sentences. You get, you know, go for what you know. Say as much as your mouth can say. That's a book within itself. You can write a whole book off of just that one sentence. Say as much as your mouth can say. Ask for as much money as your mouth can say can be a whole book. But that was just one sentence that came out that we marinated over. Like, what does that mean? That's deep. How much would I ask?
I'm curious if you unpack that. Like, we don't have time for the whole book, but how would you unpack that? Say,
God, I mean, a
what's
lot
the
of
phrase
that
again?
is
Say what you
how much should I ask to get paid for this? As much as your mouth can say. Yeah, I got this sync coming in. They want to use it for a commercial. They're asking me for a quote. How much should I ask for? As much as your mouth can say.
Okay.
And then you start thinking, you're like, do I have enough confidence? So it's a confidence thing. It's a value thing. It's a where you're at mentally. What are your negotiating skills? So, I mean, there's a lot of pride and ego and confidence and mental stability in trying to quote a price in a certain scenario.
Absolutely.
And not be afraid. So there's like, you know, chapters, not being afraid, know your worth, what's the ultimate goal? All of that one little sentence, all of that is unpacked in there. What's the ultimate goal with this particular quote? Right.
Right.
How
As much as your mouth can say.
Yeah.
Damn, I like that. It reminds me of like, I remember the first time with a band I was with where someone asked me like, are you guys good? And I distinctly remember looking at him like, hell yeah, we're really good. And it's like, cause I could look back, there was proof, or I could look back on it. And yeah, it's like, if you don't have that confidence, you're not gonna, you're like, oh, it'll be like 300. I'll take 300 for that instead of 3,000.
And then someone's like, sure. Okay, great. Let's do it. Then you're like, fuck, I should have asked for more. But then he said, if you said 1,500, they're like, no, we can't do it. Then you're like,
right. But you can't back off then. You got to be like, yeah, it's 1,500. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But then you're like, well, what do you got? And it's like, well, we only got this. And then you start negotiating, but.
That's true. I could do an hour. I could do this track.
Yeah.
When I come so much from the live world that my brain still processes in that regard too. Cause yeah, it's like, if you tell someone it's 3,500, 5,000, just, start throwing out numbers and then watch the reaction. Cause I remember the first gig, like with the band that I'm with that we booked, and they were like, how much? It was like some hospital private event. And I said like $800. I had no idea. And they just go, cool. And it was what you said, where I was like, no, I probably could have asked for a lot more. And I found out later I could have asked for a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know if at the time we were good enough, as much as my mouth could say.
That's true. That's as much as your mouth could say.
I dig that.
Yeah. It's deep. So, getting something like that thrown at you at 16 and then trying to unpack that through your whole career or just for the next couple of jobs that come your way.
Right. And that was from being in the room with your dad as he was sharing things.
He was, me and DJ Newmark were doing parties. We were doing, parties every weekend. We were killing it. And he was like, what are y'all doing? It's like, oh, we're DJing parties. So, DJing is a relatively new thing. I mean, there's always been house parties, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But it's like, wait, you guys are like packing up and going stuff and you're taking records. Like, what are you doing? Oh, we're DJing party. We're doing house parties. Oh, really? What are you bringing all this gear? How much are you charging? We're like, oh, we don't charge. He's like, man, y'all need to be charging. I'm like, well, what do we charge? As much as your mouth can say. And then we're both like,
Damn.
Well, can you give us a number? But
like, how much would your mouth say right now? Because I need some help with it.
Right. And it goes back to the thing with my mom. Hey, mom, I need some advice. Oh, you'll figure it out. So, we figured it out and we were charging what we were charging and the price raises. And sometimes you do it for free. Sometimes you're charging. Sometimes you're getting a nice payday. Sometimes you got a goal. It's like, hey, let's charge this because we want to pick up this drum machine. So, we're $500 short. Let's just charge 500. Get it and just put in that drum machine and then you're happy.
Right. It reminds me, I wish I could remember, I think it was a president, one of his staff members was writing up a report for him. And the lore is that he came and gave it to the president, and the president just asked him, is this the best work you can do? And the guy took it back and worked on it a few more days, came back, asked again, is this the best work you can do? And again, the guy's frustrated now, but he takes it, works on it more, comes back and presents it to him. And he asks him the same question, and the guy's mad. He's just like, yes, this is the best I could actually do. And the president said, okay, well, then I'll finally read it because now you believe in it. And
exactly.
Man, exactly. I love that. Yeah, podcast is done. That's all you need right there. We can just sit here and think about that. I'm just kidding.
Right. But that, is that the best you can do? You say that to 8 different people. Right. 8 different people are going to take it different ways. Some are going to be offended. Some are going to work harder on it. Some are going to leave the room. Some are going to, it just depends. So that's the same thing with me, with you, was saying, hey, that's all you've done. That person was like, yep, this is the best I can do. I've gone back. My mentality was, that's a good question. Let me look at this again. Let me bring it back to you. And, you're asking me again. Let me bring it back to you again. And then, fuck this. Yes, this is it. Okay, cool. I'll check it out.
Well, and that's my stepping into the sync world. I learned about the volume piece. I'm like, I got to learn how to mix. I need to learn how to produce, how to master, all that piece, the parts I was hiring out at the time.
Right.
And I, sending it out for feedback and working. I sent it out to 2 different producers when I've been working on something, for a while. And one producer has like a gold record. One producer makes a ton of money in sync. Like, they're both very like accomplished people. And they gave me opposite feedback like distinctly opposite. One person was like, do mid-side here. The other person was like, don't even mess with that, blah, 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 you know. And that was another moment, I had to sit back and be like, okay, what do I feel in this moment? Because two trusted people who are brilliant are telling me the opposite things. And yeah, I think artistry and confidence, it's necessary to find that confidence in your artistry. But at the same time, it's like the artistry comes from exploring and taking risks and being in a place that you don't feel comfortable necessarily as well. It's this
There's
weird
a phrase I came up with that I haven't seen anyone say before. Came up with it about 10 years ago, and it's called art is try.
Art is try.
Artistry. Break out artistry into 3. Art is try.
I dig it.
Right? And you just got to try the shit. And you're going to get opinions on stuff, which is cool. Sometimes, and then you get opposing opinions. You're like, well, what the fuck is this? And it comes down to, do I like this? And it's like, you know what? I love this. Fuck it. You know what? I like this, but I do agree that this is something is missing. And what he said is what I think is missing. So let me dig in deeper. Right. And what he said, I don't agree with, or it's not something that's bothering me. So I'm going to keep it pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was helping out. My man was playing me his record that he's trying to mix, and you know he's been struggling with it, but he's been putting in crazy hours. And I came over and I was listening, and I was like, "Oh, well, what about this, this, and this?" He was like, "Shit, I'm too close to it."
Yeah,
you know? Right. And I'm like, and also, you got a big hole in your room. Like your room has got a big, like a giant fucking drop at like 50, 60K. It's like this is dead here, and over here it's boomy, and here it's this, and the song, it's missing this and this, and what are you rolling off on? And let's pump up 300. Pump up 150 to 300 for me, and just keep pumping it up. And keep pumping it up. Is it hurting your ears? Nah. I said, see, you're missing that shit. You're missing that whole thing, because if you pump it up enough, your shit should start bothering you. I'm like, yeah, we're missing some frequencies. Went back, remastered the whole album.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, and that's that try part, where you got like just got to roll it up, do it. That's one piece too of the further I go, especially like songwriting in a group is just throwing out lyrics. It's like, no, like I'd have some people who want to argue about lyrics. It's like, no, I just give other options, like throw something out, and it could be stupid, like, but maybe it'll get us to the next thing. I dig that. Art is tribe. That's amazing.
That's my shit. So if you use it, make sure you credit me on it, because I made it up.
Yeah, definitely. Put it on a meme out there.
Yeah.
Burt Blackarach.
Yeah, art is try.
Now, you started, so getting back to like how you started though, as a DJ, doing house parties, where like, did you go down that full path, like DJ career? I know you've toured and done that, but better question, I guess, is where did the sync licensing world enter your career as you were beginning as a DJ?
You know, I think the real entry in is my mother starting a publishing company 1971. So my mom started one of the first Black family-owned publishing companies like in the world, and realizing that the record deals that my father was doing, they wanted to own the publishing. She was like, oh, we should have our own publishing company. So I think that is one of those subconscious, no one's giving you advice, but you kind of see something out of the corner of your eye, or you see a split sheet, or you see a residual check, or you're like, oh, we got a residual check. So you remember that as a kid, like, hey, we can go get some Christmas gifts, you know, so that kind of sticks in your head a little bit, but you don't.
You're like, whatever that is, that's good. I like that thing.
Right. Then you hear the term mailbox money. Then you see a statement, you know, and then, so I think when I was 14, my mom said, do you want to run our publishing company? My parents had split up, and I was like, yeah, but what's publishing? So I would
publishing was happening for you before even DJing.
Yeah. Okay. I remember where I was when she asked me, and I hadn't really started DJing. I was just getting into it. And so then seeing these spreadsheets, and you're like, what's all this shit? What's this? Oh, that's the Belgium collection agency. What's Jazz Rack? Oh, that's the Japan collects money. What's ASCAP? Oh, they collect money for here. You know, these are all different territories. Yeah, these songs play in different territories, and they earn money. And this company Jazz Rack collects the money for this territory, and ASCAP collects the money for this territory. And so then understanding that at, 14, 15, 16, it's like, okay, that's something you bank, but you're hyped on DJing, and then DJing got into producing and then making music. And then you knew that, hey, I can't sell my publishing, even though these people want your publishing, because I already know, my mom's like, you got your own publishing
like, I started
company.
there, guys. I know what's up.
So you kind of know that. And then, you start getting my first like license was with James Cameron.
Okay.
And
not a bad way to start.
Yeah, that was kind of my first sync. And then they brought me on to do additional music onto a TV show with James Cameron.
Now, how old were you at that time?
28.
Okay. So like 14 years in at
Yeah,
this
maybe,
point.
yeah, maybe like 28. And that was, I would, that was a master and pub buyout, but I was still getting a nice check for each song. And then I see my royalty statements for my writer share. So that would be the intro to like, oh, this is really cool. I've been trying to get Busta Rhymes to get a song, or I've been trying to hook up with artists and do records, but this is a really cool thing because, you do the song, you get paid, and you see the result immediately.
Right.
When we're doing records for artists, maybe you get paid, but it never comes out. Maybe you die. I've done a lot of records where I don't even know where they're at anymore. I got paid for them. So this is a real satisfying, this is a real revelation. Whoa, I make music, I get paid for it, and then I see the result the next week on TV. Like, that's fucking cool. So I got hyped on composing and sync, started a sync company because there was no urban music in sync.
That's interesting.
Right. There was
that seems like, what year was that?
2000.
Really?
Yeah. So that's why people were coming. They were like, they're looking for authentic urban stuff. And so we started a company called Urban Score. On that show, I met Chuck D and Gary G. Wiz from Public Enemy. And we partnered up and formed a company called Urban Score. And we were, making CDs and sending music out and then scoring TV shows. I did the Meth and Red TV show as a composer and did theme songs for the ESPY Awards, the X Games, Sunday Night Baseball. Every week we do a new theme song, Home Run Derby, all types of stuff. So that was the intro into sync. And even though I'm being hired as a composer and they're, buying it out, it's still like, this is pretty cool. And then I started the library company and started licensing songs. So that was like the intro to sync, but that was just a part of what my passion was. And then what happened, 15 years later, is the president of Fox called me and said, I want to pitch you for this new show that we're doing. And I was excited because I thought he wanted me as a composer. And he said, no, I want you as a music supervisor. And I said, I hadn't done it before. And then he laughed like you. He's like, dude, you're overqualified. And I said, let's go. And then I got the job. But, all of that bed that I have, everything, all my knowledge is like, yeah, of course you can be music supervisor. So now the supervising I've been doing for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's the real intro into like super sync, like dealing with all the publishers and finding ways to get my songs licensed and finding, learning more knowledge and getting more adept at how to pimp the whole game.
Right.
Right.
Now you said super sync. It's like, in a sense, like leveling up.
Yeah.
Like
because now, you were. Yeah. Because like you're calling me and you're reaching out. Hey, can I listen to my music? So you're calling around begging people.
Right.
But imagine if you were, hold on for a second.
No problem.
What was I saying?
We were talking about super sync as you stepped into working with Fox.
Oh yeah. So now I get to call the publishers. So now can you imagine you having the ability to call, Sony Publishing or call UMG and get stems to songs, get, access to WAV files, know who to reach out to. If you're trying to play something, it's like, oh, wait a second. Now I see the inner workings of the game. And I see how I can apply that to what I'm doing.
Right. And now at that point, you're a peer. You're not trying to get them to use your music necessarily. It's like you guys are just running together.
Right. And I've got money. So they're answering my phone call. They're like, hey, he's working on a show.
It's funny how that phone just opens right up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I can say, hey, how would I do this? I'm working on my own project. They're like, oh, if you need this, that, and the other, here, this is what you would do. And we'll make sure we'll take care of it. We'll help you out. So now I'm opening up paths to doing my one-man show and getting it filmed on Netflix. And now they've given me a path on how to license songs that I didn't think I'd be able to license. They're like, oh, you can do it like this. So it's kind of opened up the whole game for me a little bit more.
Well, and that's cool too, because it sounds like even from at 14, it's like the path you were walking kept preparing you really well. It sounded like you gave yourself to that season. Yeah. And it opened up that next season to where now you're here at Super Sync level. That's another t-shirt you could brand.
Super Sync. I'll stick to the Burt Blackarach.
It's the Chipotle model. You're only going to have one option. That's what you're going to do. That's amazing. Thinking from that artist though, like someone who's not at the Super Sync level, right? someone like me who's still trying to figure out how to break into that world, acquire the skills. You said something that's interesting. It's like where it's like often we find ourselves in that place of begging people to listen to it. How would you encourage someone to approach things to where they don't feel like they're begging, to where they are bringing similar value?
You have to put out your music. You make us find you.
Okay.
You gotta make us find you.
So in the sense of like get out there and get that hit, get that viral hit in that sense. Okay.
Yep.
Whereas like this track is hot. I want it on all the things.
Yep. And then you're working on your art and you're making stuff that you like and you're feeling, that's the mental, the mental aspect of all of this is we make music because it's mental therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to factor that in when you're writing songs and making songs. Like, hey, part of this is mental therapy for me. I need to make music that I like, that gives me goosebumps, that lets me be productive as a human being. Because if I'm not making it, then I'm going to go home and kick my dog, or I'm not feeling really happy. So that's one part of this whole music making thing. And then putting it out is a whole nother thing, right? It's like, hey, I need to release it so I can get it off my plate and it's out there in the universe. That's success. Yeah. So whether it gets synced or not, that whole little loop is success. And that needs to be celebrated. Getting it to me and getting me to like it and try to put it on something, that's a whole nother thing. But that can't be where we're laying our hat on success with. We can't depend on if it's not getting synced, I'm not successful. If it's getting synced, I'm successful. It's like, now the success is writing the music and releasing the music.
Well, so that's interesting because I feel you. So we're on this trajectory since that conversation. We're doing one new song every month, dropping it with all the content, like going that direction. And I love it because the process is shaping us. It's teaching us. I think Josh Williams says a lot where you hear your music differently when you watch other people listen to it. And it's been eye-opening. But so many people I'm running with in the sync world, they are just specifically writing music for sync and don't want to release their music till it gets placed. So it's curious where you're saying, like, get that shit out there, like, make it happen.
There's different hats to wear. There's different, goals. If that is what your goal is and that makes you happy, then have at it. But I push back on that only because, we make music because it's a calling. And it's something that we can't keep bottled in and we'll regret if we're not making music. So if somebody who's making music and is just pushing it to sync, then maybe that's their calling and that's giving them their mental therapy that they need to do. But to keep it on your hard drive and then only send it to jerk-offs like me and then expect that to be my entry or path into releasing it, I think is kind of backwards. I would much rather be releasing it to my friends and putting it out there in the universe while simultaneously trying to send it off to jerk-offs, the jerk-off middlemen who've got no power anyway. You know what I mean?
You guys are still trying to pitch it to somebody else in that regard. Is that the same kind of deal?
Yeah, and then they're trying to pitch it. The director loves it, but he's got to get the network to love it and buy, so and all that. So you're looking for a bunch of little things to fall into place. And there are anomalies and there are networks and there are people that got a good network that can keep just pumping and putting stuff out and building the catalog, and like that works. There's no question about that. But I always like to stay on the mental therapy side of it. And what's the reason you started making music in the first place? Because once we start figuring out how to make money, then the money turns it changes our perspective.
Right.
And then the music isn't as fun, or it's a little more formulaic to try to make money, as opposed to I need to make music to make music.
Absolutely.
And that's why these old artists were like, oh, we don't want to hear any more music from you. You wrote 15 hits that I love. This shit you're writing now sucks. It's like they need to write the music. They got.
I just saw Rolling Stones is working on their next album, and I was thinking about that. I'm like watching these dudes. It was at the gym. I saw it on the TV, and I was like, damn. I was like, but I mean, I hope I'm still writing music then. You know?
They have to do it. He has to.
Yeah,
he wants to write music. He needs to, whether we like it or not. Who gives a shit? Yeah. He has to do it, or else he's going to feel depressed, or he's not feeling like he's fulfilling his purpose. Blah 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 blah.
I love it. Well, yeah, it's the artist thing is a different animal as well, and chasing that down, the touring, as you know.
Oh yeah.
How do you balance those worlds? Because I know you're still out doing performances.
Not well.
Not well. Okay.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah. I would love to say that I've got it figured, but I don't. Sometimes I'll look at my, godfathers or godparents, or some of them are musicians that are in bands that are constantly touring. Maybe they're in their 70s. You're like, fuck it, that's a slog, man. You've been on the road for 50 years. But and then, cut albums, but they're making money on the road, and the road is the gig, and it's
Mhm.
like, but they love it and they're making their money, and that's the path that they're on, and they can stay focused on that, which is great. For me, if that was my one thing to do, and it was like, hey, you're going to be on the road until your mid to late 70s, you're going to be earning a living, you're going to have a great time, I would still be thinking about, well, I really like this too, and I really like that, and I really like that, and I want to do that as well. So I kind of like a mix of all.
Right.
I want to tour my one man show. So that's a dream of mine that I'm working on very, very hard.
Mhm.
Want my catalog to be a little more organized and a little more vast. So when I do pitch, I can grab stuff and, be a little more on point. I wish I was making more music I wish I was making more music, first of all. I wish I was working with more artists, first of all, then I had more catalog.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, feel like I'm building this big foundation of resources. I've got every publisher, every record label. I'm producing TV shows. I'm producing a couple of movies. So that taking the space of working with an artist,
Right.
it's taking the space of being on the road. It's like, hey, this is building towards the ultimate goal, which would be hopefully getting my one man show cracking, which
Mhm.
then feeds my publishing company, which then all the songs that I play are part of my publishing company. Then that stuff gets licensed because people are coming to me for it, as opposed to me banging on everyone's door, license this, license that. They're like, yo, you've seen that show UnShazamable? You hear the music they're playing? Music's amazing. That dude's we got to get some of that music on our show. That's why I got hired to do Supervision, because people started seeing that show. They're like,
That's
yo,
awesome.
right? So I know that it works, and I know that it resonates. I love teaching people how to DJ, at least my way, with my passion. And that's been a huge success.
The DJ for a day. I was seeing something about that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been a massive success. And now I'm doing a partnership with FIFA.
That's
FIFA's
pretty awesome.
for the next 2 months, and they're renting out my studio.
That's
And
awesome, dude.
so there's, so it's like, that's taking up, instead of touring, it's like people are coming here and I get to do it, in a different way. So there's a lot of things that I'm passionate about that I'm kind of checking off. And I would like each one of those things I'm doing to level up and get to the next level. And,
Mhm.
it's all scattered. I want to compose more. I got a composing job that I'm up for right now. I haven't composed a movie in a year and a half. And then something popped up, and then they want me to put together a reel for them, but they
Hmm.
love the work that I've done. I'm like, oh, it's great. I've been dying to compose. I've been dying to make music. I'd love to get this job. It's fits my genre that I'm good at. It works well with the show that I've done before. So I'm like, oh, this would be perfect. So I'm trying. There's a lot of things that interest me. I'm got a complicated situation,
Well, it
right?
sounds like there's a convergence of different skill sets that are building to yet probably another bigger season, some
Yes.
other next super.
Yeah.
Do you have in mind, like you said, the one man show? Is there something even bigger, a bigger goal above that for you ultimately?
The one man show will be, we're going to it's turned into an 8-part docuseries. So it went from, the one man show, it's called UnShazamable, and it's playing songs of demo tapes that I found lying around the house that my parents used to have. So these demo tapes got all these great musicians on it that played on all the hit records. And then I was able to do these through lines from each song. I'm like, yo, that bass player is the same bass player on this Aretha Franklin song, same bass player on this. Toto is on this song. Toto is also on this and this and this. Listen to how it all sounds the same. So I can do these really cool through lines.
It's like a history of music or pop music as you're
yeah,
performing.
and it
That's
was all
pretty cool.
it was all recorded in our house. And it's
Wow.
my version, it's my story. I own the masters, I own the publishing. So that turned into, well, my story, the people I grew up around, to, oh wait, I can break this out and I can do a story on this person and this person and this person. Now I've got 8 episodes. Now I can wait, this is now like unsung, but it's unshazamable, and it's my version of an unsung, so to speak. So the unshazamable is kind of grown into that. I'm for.
That's amazing.
Because I'm to Canadian,
Nice.
into the Canadian, got to teach everyone. So I know all the people to reach out to license the music and try to negotiate the deals that I need. Because, hey, this is my project. This is what it is. This is the money we got. I need it to be this. So I got the skill set to try to get the price points that I need. Yeah. So, I mean, it's grown into that. And
That's pretty awesome.
And I'm dying, I want to do theaters. All I want to do is theaters with this show. It's a sit down thing. It's very entertaining. It's a music history, funny stories. I get sad, I cry. I share the mental, how emotional and what a mental mind fuck all this is. And I think that resonates with people because I think we're all struggling. And I think we all have got problems. And I think we all have hurdles that we're trying to figure out how to get across. And music kind of shares that story.
Yeah. Well, and that was something you had mentioned in the last review sessions we had at the Sync Alliance, was this focus of mental health. And like my story, I've dealt with depression, anxiety, OCD throughout my life. And on the road, we had a producer who pushed us to like start sharing those stories when we were on the road. And I remember the first time opening up about it on stage in connection to one of our songs. And it was like a high school event that we were playing for. And it ended up just a line of students just waiting to talk to the band afterwards. Each one had a story, and they're only 16, 17 years old.
There you go.
Where does that come from for you? The focus of mental health, is it rooted in your own struggles or just working with other artists and seeing them battle it?
I think it comes from seeing at a young age when a famous bass player asked me, what do I want to be when I grow up? I was under 12 years old. I had to be 10 or 11 years old. And I said, I don't know, but I don't want to be in the music business. And he said, oh, really? Why? Why is that? And I said, I don't know. It just looks crazy. So I saw then what a mental thing this is, right? Like that guy over there's got no teeth. And those two don't look like they really like each other, but why are they doing this? And those two really get along well, but just seeing all these different things. So it just looked a little off to me. Mm-hmm. And then seeing, relationships, seeing my parents' relationships, seeing that, when I look at my aunts and uncles, there's like 17 divorces between like my mom's side and my dad's side and between them and everything. I'm like, there's a lot of this whole married happily ever after thing is a farce. Right. This isn't real. And what are we fighting? What are we fighting for when a lot of the results are, frustrating? I had a sister who was challenging to grow up with, that I had to repress a lot of I had to repress a lot in order to survive it. Mm-hmm. I, got with my wife really, really young, and then she had some pretty gnarly incidents. And that was like at a young age, like, whoa, what's this?
So then she's carrying this baggage, you're carrying your own baggage, and now we get to carry some shit together.
And having to learn, like, how do you manage that? Wait, what's that? That's real?
Right.
That anxiety, that's like suicidal, depression, that like all that's, so kind of seeing all of that. And then myself, like being bummed out, and then but then making a song and like feeling this flood of endorphins. And like, whoa, that's like, making mixtapes, just listening to my mixtapes and loving the music, and then how the blends are happening and how things are touching each other and connecting with those feelings. Like, whoa, this is changing my vibe. Wait, is this a therapy thing? And then, going to therapy, I think at 26 years old, I had 4 people die. My best friend hung himself in September. My only male cousin was hit by a car in October. My dad found him dead in November, Thanksgiving. And then my uncle, my cousin who passed away in October, he died in January. So I had 4 in a row.
At 20, you said at 26?
I think I was 26. Yeah.
Yeah.
And young. And it's, it's one thing to be 13 or 14 or 8 or 9 and have that happen because, your brain's developed in a certain way. And then it's just like, whoa, but 25 is still a very young age, but you've processed a lot of things and you've matured and you've got a certain understanding, but you haven't gotten over the hump. So when that hits you right there at a point where that's the first deaths that I've really dealt with, and you start trying to process all of that, you're like, what the hell is this? What does all this mean? That really opened me up a lot to seeing that there's a bigger purpose and seeing people that aren't happy.
Yeah.
Like, like this person has it all. Why is this person not happy? So, I've always been a looker, kind of a vibe. I've always felt a vibe. and wondering what does that vibe mean, or that vibe feels a little off, and trying to understand that. So I think that's all part of the mental thing. And I think going to therapy, I've been to a lot of therapy for different reasons. And I
Hmm.
think that's makes me open to it. And I think having a wife been who's knee deep in it, who I'm open, I believe everything she says and I trust her, and just knowing that this is real, this, you know, these farces people like to pretend, this is all a farce. What is this
Yeah.
existence we're even living? We don't even know what this is. So I've been fortunate that I'm open, receptive, but I got a wife that's very in tune, and I've listened, and I've seen it all unfold. And I know there's a bigger thing than just making money and pretending like you're rich. There's actually finding happiness, and this happiness comes in different forms. And there's planting a flower can make you just as happy as getting $100,000. Getting
Yeah.
$100,000 can make you really depressed. Had money, seen people get money, and they get worse.
Right.
Right?
Well, I think about Chester Bennington, lead singer of
Yeah,
Linkin Park.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I remember hearing the news of him killing
yeah,
himself, and my band was touring pretty heavily at the time, and to be honest, their second album, Meteora, kept me, I think, from killing myself back in college. I would listen to it on repeat. I was going through so many dark things, but then to hear that, and it seemed like he had everything I wanted.
yeah,
He was
yeah,
playing, stadiums all the time, he's doing all his things, and it still wasn't enough.
yeah,
And it's just wild. And I feel like the arts, we get into it because the power of emotion, but
yeah.
sometimes it can be almost our worst enemy in a way if we don't know how to navigate it. And
How to navigate it,
it's heavy.
how to control it, how to use how to utilize its strengths. It's very, very powerful. And
Because
I'm
like you
going through.
said, sometimes you got to repress. Sorry to cut you off on that, but
Yeah,
you had said about repressing. I don't know what it was specifically with your sister, but I think sometimes I, as an artist, have had people around me try to suppress that artistry, like that my ability to emote as if it was a bad thing. Like you said, it's
right.
like learning how to control it and see it
Yeah,
for what it is, but
yeah,
guide it in a
yeah,
way.
yeah. And I think about up until high school, right after high school. Then I went away to college, and I went to this college that was really remote. And when I came back, when I was up there, I remember at one point saying like, wow, I thought every place was like Los Angeles, because I was in a remote area. And growing up, my family's from Toronto and Jersey, and, I've been to Vancouver. So all the places I've been have been like big cities. And this was, small town. And I came back and I was just completely different, completely mellowed, chilled out. And then I look back at like how I was through high school. I'm like, man, I was pretty wild. Like, not like, because I've never been in a fight. I've never been in a fight in my life. So I'm not wild. I don't want to give that perception. But I
Right.
was very focused, hungry, and cocky with what I was cocky about. Music, this is what I want to do. I'm doing that. Fuck you. I got best friends who were like, dude, I hated you when I first met you, but it was just because you were so confident, or you had, you seemed like you knew what you wanted. I'm like
They couldn't
that's
handle that confidence at that moment.
yeah, but I
They
was like,
weren't ready.
I definitely wasn't confident, but I guess, I knew what I liked. When I figured out what I wanted, it was this, and
Right.
that's all I was really focused on. But we all go through that shit. So now, I'm going through some other shit, trying to figure out shit. And it's constant every 5 years. It's a constant journey on trying to stay, in tune. I'm just realizing I've got a form of anxiety. I just
Oh,
realized it last week, like on Friday. I was like, oh,
realize
wait
it
a
like through
second.
counseling or just kind of realization
Uh,
like, oh, that's anxiety. That's what it is.
Self-realization on a vacation.
Interesting.
On a vacation, I said, wait, this is what this is? Wait, oh, that's interesting. Okay. And it's not bad. And it's not I'm not like, around people, or, it's a fine tune. And it was
Hmm.
really cool to see it was like crystal clear, like, oh, boom, I see it. Okay. I'm going to fine tune that. I'm going to work on that. Because if I can
What does
fine
that look
tune
like
that,
for you to fine tune it?
therapy, talk to a therapist with it, stay focused on that one particular thing, and see what grows out of it, but staying focused on not being so wound up, and not being so, I forget, I wrote it down, but just focusing on that, and then unpacking that and see what unpacks from there. But, I want to be happier. I want to not focus on the negative things. So some things that I'm focusing that are negative,
Hmm.
it's like, why are you always thinking about that? Like, well, I'm worried that, this may go away. And it's like, but it's not going away and it hasn't gone away. And what good does it do to think about it going away? It's like,
Right.
well, if I don't think about it, then maybe I'll slip up and then something will happen and then it'll go away. It's like, wow, that's anxiety. You're living in a constant fear of, and you don't get to be yourself. Don't you like to be yourself? I'm like, yeah, I like to be myself. That'd be fun to
I like
kind of be
myself.
myself
Listen,
and to be able to say things and not worry that it's going to come back and bite you, or, you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
So I think
Well,
that, and I think that's a little fine tune that I'm looking really forward to. I came back from vacation really hyped, like, oh, I'm going to figure this out. That's going to be fun. And that's going to unlock a few things because so many great things are happening. There's
yeah.
so many cool things involving from me and things that are happening. So that,
Well, it sounds like it. Yeah, it sounds like
yeah,
a
yeah,
pretty cool ass season that you got
yeah.
going there. It makes me think of there's a quote from Alex Hormozy. He's a investor business writer, and he talks about how both things, like seeing the negative in the future or imagining the positive in the future, they both don't exist. He's like, they both are not true yet. So you might as well
Right.
focus
On the
on the
positive.
positive part because neither one is actually true yet. And
Right.
that kind of opened up. I love what you're
I
saying
love
too,
that.
though. It sounds like you're saying, at least I interpret it as you're stepping towards that. You feel the anxiety instead of running away from it. You're stepping towards it. Like
Yeah.
you're trying to
Yeah.
understand it and trying to walk
Yes.
through that.
Yeah.
That's me dealing when I dealt with like OCD. Part of it was exposure therapy, where it's like the thing that's causing anxiety. Like if germs was the thing,
Mm-hmm.
like for me, germs was a thing. I got to a point where I couldn't touch people. But it got to a point where like it started by not washing my hands at night before I went to bed. Like it was just that one simple act to
Wow.
where it's like, then, okay, now what else makes me anxious? And then eventually it came down to one of my mentors actually grabbed, big burly dude, grabbed me and hugged me. And I was like freaking out and he wouldn't let go. And I finally just kind of relaxed into it. And I'll never forget that moment because it's like,
Wow.
I'm not gonna die. It sounds crazy. Oh, like this is me back in
No.
my 20s,
No.
right? But it was a
No.
process of like having to step in to all the anxiety, and that
Yeah.
was the only way to heal from it,
Yeah.
and to be free. And now I freak people out because food will drop on the ground, I'll pick it up and just eat it,
Yeah. Fuck
that
it,
kind
man.
of stuff. But yeah, that's powerful. What would you say to an artist right now that's going through their own depression or going through their own realization of this anxiety? What would you encourage them to at this moment?
See a therapist, because I wouldn't want to be my solution or my thoughts to be what they do. So I would want to feel comfortable that they're talking to somebody about some of the stuff, because we're not going to share everything. People aren't going to share, if you're going to be general with what's going on, hey, I'm depressed, I'm struggling. Well, what are you struggling with? And then are you having trouble at home? Is there bad situations going on? Is there physical, is there mental abuse? Is it like that? Or is it that you are just frustrated that you're not being heard? Your music isn't being heard, or you're not making it, or you're not getting the collaborations you want, and if we can be honest, and if it's just that, and if it's just what's inside of the music that's
Right.
frustrating you, that's causing you depression, then but I'm very careful because I don't want to get involved in that other shit. But I would say, what makes you happy? When are you the happiest? Are you happiest when you're hitting a button and a sound comes out? When are you the happiest? And can we duplicate that happiness? Do you need approval? Do you need people's approval in order to be happy? I'd say that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
If we're chasing people's approval to be happy, then that's a problem. I would say, why did you get into making music? Why are you doing it? And I would start there. Why are you in music? Why is this important to you? Not everybody has to be a musician. Not everybody has to make music. Not everybody has to make money making music. So there's a lot of there's a lot of opportunities to fulfill yourself with music. Let's figure out the best way that you can control the fulfillment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's huge. And it really just getting to the why of things too. I think this,
Yeah.
like you said, the mind fuck that this business is, and it's just a never ending, when I got married, my wife she would ask me, when are you done working? And I was like, I don't understand that question.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you can work 24 hours a day and it's never done.
Yeah.
So
And then
we just got to a
you're
point.
working for no money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, we got to a point where I was like, you just tell me when you want to go do a thing and I'll just make time,
Right.
but that it can really, that grind, to be honest, I love it. because during COVID, I let go of the grind and it was fine for a while, but then I realized I was designed for the grind in a way.
Okay.
But it was like, I lost my train of thought on that. But yeah, the grind can make you forget the why, like what you're talking about, the core of, and so that, I mean, even as you're talking, that inspires me to want to sit with that same concept. That's huge. I just got 3 quick questions for you. I know you got a million things to do. So you're in the super level of sync. So you got shit to do. But so 3 questions. First of the 3, an artist right now who's wanting to break into sync licensing, they're also running the artist track. Like they're wanting to tour, but they love the sync thing. What one piece of advice would you give them?
Have a sync agent.
Versus library?
You can do both.
Right on.
How prolific, how productive are you? Can you create a library that's going just straight to a library, like an Extreme Records, and then you're writing songs that are going to your sync agent, and then you're putting out an album, how productive can you be? You know, when we say library, I take that as better or worse throwaway music.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Because when we say library, we're thinking about these big APMs and all that that've got a lot of music. A lot of it fits scenes and stuff, but none of them are hits, or none of them really feel. I haven't heard a lot of library songs that have been like, wow, this is such a great song.
Okay.
You know, it's just kind of made.
That's where the sync agent makes more sense from your perspective.
If you're putting out albums that you're passionate about, that you're not writing just for library, you know, like I wrote stuff that was just for library and you seem to kind of just push it out.
Right.
You know, it's like, hey, this is that vibe. Hey, I'm trying to hit the Ed Sheeran vibe. Oh, let's go do it.
I see. I got you.
And that's the vibe. That's the Ed Sheeran vibe. I'm trying to hit this vibe. That's that vibe. Because when you do a library deal, generally you're giving away all your publishing and your writer and your master rights.
Gotcha.
So, you know, so that's one avenue of money. But so I would say if you're passionate about touring, to answer your question, and you want to get stuff synced, then you need a sync agent on your team that sees the vision of your music, and you just need to keep feeding the music and have a relationship with them while you're touring. But you need to be releasing music. You need to be putting albums out. I'd say social media is more important than, I think sharing your story is more important than anything. So if you're touring, are you sharing that touring story? Are you sharing the music that you're making? Are you making music while you're on tour? Are you doing any BTS footage of you creating something? I think all of that stuff is more important to tell your story. I think you want to tell your story. So how can you best tell your story? If sync is really important to you, then you need to make a lot of music and find people to pitch it for you.
That's awesome. Well, last 2 questions, got a little practical nugget. And the last 2, we get back to the more like meta level. It's based off the podcast, Live and Create. So first of the last 2, right now, how would you define living a great life?
I got a good answer for this. Just thinking, living a great life. So growing up, I always, we dreamed of having a Ferrari and having, mansion, and having millions of dollars. And I wake up in my house one day and it's a 2-bedroom bath, 1,400 square feet, smack in the middle of LA in mid Wilshire. And I say, holy shit, this is my mansion. This is my mansion. This mansion isn't this picture I drew of a 2-story, 8-bedroom, 12-bedroom house with all this land. This is a mansion. That is happiness. When I realize it, this is a mansion. And a mansion is a term for having a home that you are in love with, and that you know that this is the epitome of comfort. The epitome of wealth is being in a home that you're happy in. So erasing all of the perceived markers of success and believing it. And I sit there and I believe it. And I look at my house, I look at my front yard, I look at my fountain. I'm like, this is a fucking mansion. This is so cool. I wish somebody would have told me at 16, this can be your mansion right here. This 2-bedroom, 2-bath house in a location you love is a fucking mansion. It's the same as that other shit. That's how I define success. Was that the question, success or happiness?
How you define living a great life. But that's huge.
Yeah, that's, finding the joy in the things that you have. And sometimes we find the negative in the things that we have. And that's what I'm working on now, and we all need to work on.
You're learning to look at that fountain, be like, that's a big ass fountain.
That's a cool fountain right there. We took it from our grandparents' house when they sold their house. So now we got the fountain that grandma bought when she was so excited in the 70s. She had to have this fountain. And now every day I get to look at that fountain that grandma had. And like, that's pretty cool. I took the handrails from inside the house and put it outside our house going down our stairs. Like that to me is so I think there's these little wins that we have to be happy with.
That's
So
huge.
that's my definition, at least right now.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I have 4 boys, and my youngest now is
Wow.
12. My youngest is 12. Yeah, we call it the frat house. It's insane.
Wow. How old's the oldest?
My oldest is 22. So he lives out
Wow.
on it. He's on his own, doing his own thing now. And it's wild. People tell you it goes so fast, but it's just, you don't think about it in the moment, and now we see their pictures. Even today I saw a vacation photos, pop up, and it's like, it's going to make me start crying, but to see their little faces when they were like 4 and 5 on vacation, feeding a chicken or something silly
Yeah.
that I look
Yeah.
back, and we had incredible moments, and I'm able to look back, not necessarily in regret, but it's a reminder of like, man, you were running really hard back then. Like, don't miss now as well. Like, keep running. I got dreams, I got goals. It's still part of it.
Yeah.
But don't miss this. And
Right.
Yeah. Like, I love that this is the mansion. We can, in this world, you can, especially the music world, you can miss all that and turn around and be like, shit, I'm 70. Like you mentioned earlier, like I'm still, what am I doing?
Right.
What just happened?
Right. And then
That's
people
wild.
come and tell you stuff about yourself, and they're like, that's amazing. That's cool. Like, really?
Yeah.
Right. Or like, oh, wait, I don't even remember I did that, or that happened.
Right.
And like, we're missing things that are prolific, or that are, and then there's certain moments I remember. They're like, oh, dude, I remember I was so excited when I hooked up with Chuck and them, They say, do you remember when you hooked up with so and so and so? It's like, oh no, I forgot about that. It's like, you remember
like,
when
that
you
was
did this
cool.
and you did
That's
that?
some
Like,
cool shit.
don't you remember when we were at that awards and you were talking to someone? Like, no, I don't remember. It's like, wow.
Wow.
And they wanted to work, So yeah, it's hard. Our brain can only hold so much.
I love Facebook memories for that, man.
That's true.
I really do.
There's some good stuff.
I try to document all that because, well, and
do you find yourself deleting anything?
What's that?
So some memories pop up on Facebook, and I'm like, ooh, I need to delete that.
There's been a few out there. That's another podcast.
Yeah, like, oh, I was
on a whole, I
going
try not to.
Yeah, I was going hard. Jesus,
some shit where I'm like,
finding my voice.
I don't really think that anymore. I'm going to take that now, kind of thing. But yeah, to your point, I remember I had ended the band several years back. I gave up music and walked away. And I was working at a landscape company, and I was bitching about my life. I was just in a not good headspace. And it was a friend of mine. He was like, dude, shut up. Just shut up. You've done things that a lot of people would like kill to do. And he started reminding me, kind of like your friends were doing, like, remember this, remember that.
Right.
And it got me out of my little bitch session to be like, okay. And even started turning my brain like, no, I don't need to walk away from this. I just need to recalibrate,
Correct.
But yeah, not missing it as you go. Last question right now. How would you define creating great things?
God, is that even a question? How would I define creating great things for myself or for other people?
Both.
Like listening to someone else's song and saying that's a great thing, or how would I go about?
I guess maybe coming at it from, how do you personally define? Like if you were to create something, like put together a show, put together a song, and you step back and said, that is great. Like, what would you define it as? What elements would it have?
Finishing it and presenting it, right? That's kind of what we started to talk about, which was as much as your mouth can say. Well, what does that mean? How do we unpack that? Finishing it and presenting it. What does that mean? Well, whatever it means, you got to finish it and you got to present it. Well, what if, I'm not ready to finish it, or, well, then you haven't finished it. Well, okay, I finished it, but I'm not ready to present it. Well,
it's not done yet then.
Yeah, it's not done yet. So I would say finishing and presenting. And then when you start looking at people's catalogs, you look at Willie Nelson with 50 records, and you look at McCartney with 25, and you look at so-and-so with, you're like, gee, they have that many albums? I only like 4, I don't, how many does Phil Collins have? But they're finishing. And I think that when Willie looks back, he says, whoa, I did fucking 50 albums? That's great.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's great. So I think finishing and presenting, because I have stuff that's finished that I need to present.
Yeah, that's I I have some goals in songwriting now, and I told myself I'm not even going to count it as actually part of the numbers until it's actually presented to like a music library or released. Because that I have a friend who reminds me, good is the enemy of great, and perfect is the enemy of done, and done is what gets you paid, is what he tells me all the time. It's like, it's so good. So true.
I love that. Run that back again for me?
And he probably stole it from someone, and I'm sure, but good is the enemy of great, but perfect is the enemy of done, and done is what gets you paid.
Good is the enemy of great. Go again.
Good is the enemy of great, perfect, but perfect is the enemy of done, and done is what gets you paid.
Love it.
Yeah, I have to remind myself all the time, man. Even like last night, I was working on a collab and I got out some tracks. I was like, I'm not going to bed till I send it to the producer, because it's just got to get done. I got to get it done. So, well, let people know how they can connect with you, how they can check out your show. Yeah. What's the best way to contact you?
The stories on Instagram, DJ Burt Blackarach, just like the name is spelled down here. Let me get my finger right there. DJ Burt Blackarach. I got a website, the same thing. I don't know. I'm around. Come to my studio and come do a DJ class.
Or come hang out with the FIFA people.
Yeah. Come hang out with the FIFA people. I got part of the dream, or part of the success that we talk about, or the whatever you want to call it. My studio's at Sony Studios.
That's awesome.
That's something that is that's pretty cool. How'd you get that? Well, that's another story. And it is pretty special, and I got to remember those things. So I got this opportunity.
One thing that I love in your story, I'm hearing threads of it, and it's what I'm reminded in the sync world. Same is true in the live music world. Is it's a relationship based business, and like finding the long term people you can run with. Right,
and long term in groups, because long term can be 3 days, 3 months, 3 years, 10 years. It's always in clumps. You won't see a lot of long-term throughout the whole thing, outside like your wife and your kids and stuff.
Right.
So always try to think of it in clumps. And that's
a good reminder. I like that.
Right.
That's
this
good.
Group that I'm with, this is this moment, and it may not last forever, but we got to remember this is what this clump is. And then it's time to move on to the next thing and move on to the next thing.
I love it.
And be okay with it. It's hard.
Yeah. Well, dude, thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for making the time.
Absolutely, man. You be safe. I appreciate you. Congratulations on the 4 kids, putting the music out.
Thank you.
And doing the podcast, because you're doing it, you're seeing it through, and it's done. So that's
done.
Something to be applauded, man.
Well, thank you, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create podcast.